So speaking of society, Rocco, I think you have a topic for us.
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, I thought we
Okay.
segued into that.
So, I would like to throw this one out there. As of late, we had it last week. We had a discussion. Ian brought up about when's the best time to tell your kids about Santa Claus, and I explained to everybody that we already told our kid about Santa Claus situation. And I would say that that is something that's not the social norm, right? Most people are telling their kids about Santa Claus. So we run into conflicts often because I feel like we have opposing beliefs from the general public, at least here in the United States. And conflicts can even be things subtle as we go to tell some family about the way that we're going about Santa Claus, and they don't decide to say anything about it, but they might give you a look like, "What the you look like you're crazy. Like, how the hell could you do something like that to your kid?"
You're a monster.
Well, I'm just saying, but what we receive, right? And be some more that are, way more open, where they're verbally, saying something. Because, like, here's another one. I would claim to be more agnostic than anything at all. Non-religious,
Same.
more agnostic. I don't.
Possibillion.
There's no proof of God existing.
Right.
God being there or not being there. So it's like, when you go to tell people that, especially living here in the South, right? We have a lot. This is a very difficult place for us to live because we have almost a complete 180 of everybody that exists here. And if you were to go tell people about that belief of yours, it would be, arguments everywhere to just like, who are you?
You need Jesus.
I'm just everything. You know what I mean? So like, do you guys go through any of that stuff? Do you guys feel like you experience that? Like, do you feel like you experience also, here's an important one is, do you feel like you ever experience the pressures of conforming to society just to not run into conflicts as much? Because we have children, and one thing we worry about is them conforming to certain beliefs, and because they just want to have friends. Right? Because what if he goes over to his friend's house and he's like, "Yeah, I don't believe in God," and the kid, "Well, you can't go hang out with your friend," and he just wants to conform so that he can be able to have friends, And I'm not saying that I'm going to push my belief on my child. I'm just saying, though, that what if he grows up to have that, because he's exposed to a lot of other things that we've been exposed to that have led me to believe this.
Well, isn't that going to happen to everybody when they're like teenagers?
Yeah,
that's
like it's way more important about what your friends think and like how you're accepted by all your friends and everything. So I think everybody will go through that phase. And I mean, you can do your best to make sure that they have their own opinions and their own beliefs and raise them that way. But I think when it comes down to, I think just biologically, once they get to a certain age, like puberty, basically, there's gonna be like a desire to kind of
there will be
with the community around them, right?
And we understand that. That's why we're like, right now we're being very cautious of the community that we're allowing him to be around too, because it's like, that we know it's very powerful, honestly, and it leads people to believe certain, go in certain directions that they might not have, because everybody else.
I think the way you guys are going about it is not that out of the norm these days, though. I think that is generation
here.
And stuff. There's going to be way more acceptance for people that have their own views. It's like, I always think of this, and it's kind of funny, like when in 21 Jump Street, right? Have you seen the new one with like Jonah Hill and everything?
Yeah.
They go back to the high school, and they're like, he's like trying to be the cool guy that he was back in high school, but then he's like,
the other guy,
nobody says fag anymore. Like, what are you, homophobe? Like, you're a homophobe or something? Like, everyone's like giving him shit, for like being like a cool guy back in the day, but like then everyone's like accepting. Like, I'm sure that's kind of a little bit more like played up for the Hollywood aspect, but I think that's actually what it's going to be like when people in our generation are like raising these kids who have learned that it's more about, accepting people for who they are and everything.
And he's like wearing the backpack on one strap.
He's like, no, one strap, one step only. He's like, are you sure, man? Like, everybody's got two straps on.
Yeah.
Like,
He's like,
I think I'm just going to put two straps on. Like,
do you guys feel like you have any opposing beliefs from society, and you've gone through some struggles and heartaches while trying to voice those, or just even just to stand for yourself in your own belief?
One I've wondered about recently is actually, and maybe you Clay and Rocco and Steve probably could answer this, but marriage is a really big one. I feel like there's a lot of pressure, especially people around our age, to be married if they've been together or have kids just because it's around that age where you're supposed to be married and have kids. And a lot of times I wonder, well, why is that? Like, why is being married any different than, you know, saying you're like, you know, with this person?
Tax breaks.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, like I get there's a lot of law reasons to do it, like, and like financial reasons. But as far, I mean, there's like laws in place to like get divorced, and you know, like there's still loopholes to get out of it. So there's not really like this final contract just because you get married.
Right.
So I was wondering, like, what made you guys want to like get married? I don't know. Maybe this should be a different topic, but like.
No, I mean, no, that's a part of society norms and stuff, you know.
And like I told my wife, you know, I dated her for 5 years.
Oh, you guys are married 2 years? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So all you guys can answer this fucking question then. But no.
I was like, man, he just left me out of that. So, I was dating my wife for 5 years before I even asked her to marry me.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, look, I'm going to get married one time and that is it. I don't ever plan on getting married again. I don't ever plan on being with another girl. You know, I want to make sure. So my own beliefs, of course, you know, my mom was chirping in my ear, oh, when are you going to marry her? When are you going to marry her? When are you going to have kids? Well, guess what? When I actually am ready is when that's all going to happen. So, you know, eventually, you know, I asked her to marry me. We got married, that whole blah, 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 blah. But now I'm getting on the other end. When are you going to have kids? Fuck, when we have a kid. How about that? You know, whenever it happens. And you know what's funny is my brother went through the same thing. He was 28 and my mom was hounding him every day. When are you going to have a kid? When are you going to have a kid? And it's like, you know, when we're ready, A, B, when it actually happens, you know, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, hey, by December, we're going to have a kid, you know? Yeah. So get off my fucking back. You know, and it's not just my mom, but I'm just saying like other people too.
It has to come back to the point of like a lot of people are acceptance of individuals too as well. Acceptance of, you know, everybody's a bit different, you know, and they're going to have their own what they desire out of life. Some people aren't going to desire to be married to an individual or to have children to this individual. It doesn't mean that it takes away from their love for that person by any means. Right. It just means that that's not something that. Yeah, you don't need to be married.
Children. You don't
need to have. You don't have to have any of that.
There's a biological reason that we feel compelled to, but like we live in a world that like we have a population issue. You're fine. You don't need to have kids, man.
You're fine.
Well, the other thing is, I kept telling everyone, like even growing up as a kid, my dad had me when he was 33 years old, and I said, you know what? That's probably a good age. I'm going to enjoy my youth and then have kids a little bit later on. And I think that's kind of becoming more the norm nowadays. I think people are having kids later on, which, you know, like one of my good buddies, Matt, he had a daughter at, I think, 22. And he's like, oh, you know, and he has 3 kids now. Rocco, you have 2 kids. And I mean, it's completely fine if that's, you know, whatever path you want to go. I chose the path of, hey, I'm going to wait until I'm at least 30 before I have a kid.
Yeah.
So,
it's like getting a pet these days. Like, is that a life experience you want to have?
Right.
No, I want to raise, like, okay, I think my dad and I have a good relationship, and I want to have that with a child that I created, you know? I want to have that son. I mean, hopefully it's a son, maybe it's a daughter, whatever it is.
You can have that relationship with the daughter, too.
No, of course. So, I just want to have that good friend when I'm older, you know, like, you know, call up my kid and be like, hey, what's going on? Let's go golfing. And then, you know, we have a few beers together. Even if it's a girl or boy, it doesn't matter, you know. Like, I enjoy that with my dad, and I want to have that on the other end at some point.
I gotcha. Yeah, so my topic is, you know, it's about just seeing seeing those conflicts, though, that people and individuals will go through by having you know, so like Alan's saying, you know, you're not feeling like you want to do that right. Not that, like I said, that it takes away from any of your love with Yukiko by any means. You know, it just...
No, this is totally hypothetical.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Okay. I'm just saying it doesn't take away from any of that, you know, and there could be some pressures from society to be... You know, why aren't you doing this? Like,
yeah, family, friends, you know, they're just like, oh, like, how are you guys?
That problem, I feel, is like, it's a lack of...
And you feel guilty, like almost like something's wrong with you in your relationship if you're not taking that next step, right? And that's totally
the problem
false.
that I have with society is like, why don't we sit back and analyze these things and change some of these things? Like, why isn't there more of an acceptance, right, instead of like a judgment? kind of happening.
It's
And
why I get kind of annoyed when it's like, oh, we're too PC, we're too sensitive. It's like, nah,
Right.
motherfucker, we kind of need to be so that we can constantly evaluate if this is the right verbiage and communication and like understanding of people.
With that too, and I was gonna mention that too.
Yeah,
there's
no,
so
just
many
prove
here
your
in the
parent. You
South
just got to
that
be
are-
more tough. It's like, fuck you, dude.
So I'm living here in the South, guys, and it's totally different. I'm not even kidding. It's not. It's so conservative, so conservative.
Yeah.
There's no even possibility of anything else changing for these individuals.
Yeah.
So like they are so hampered on the whole politically correct kind of deal, and you know what, like. There's a point to being able to say what you have to say about voicing your own opinion with certain things in a type of debate situation if you have to, but there's also a point of being just a big asshole.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like and then also not an acceptance of an individual and it's saying that it's pretty much your way or the highway. And a lot of people, they see that as being such a fine line. Like it's more like you're telling them they're wrong, that their beliefs are wrong. You know, it's
Well,
like
do you think that we're kind of guilty of the same thing talking about these people?
in a way.
Like how come we're not accepting them for like being stuck in like an older generation that they don't understand and like surrounded by people that don't understand the same things we do?
I think what it is I accept these individuals. I accept the family members that want to do the Santa Claus and the different things, right? What I dislike is the lack of acceptance for when I go to
the other way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right there, or I accept that these individuals believe in a God and believe in the Bible and believe in all this other different stuff, but I dislike when I can't verbalize my own beliefs without them feeling it's attack on theirs.
Right.
Now
that is
it's the lack of it's seen as a lack of acceptance and more of a judgment. It's like no,
or
like how you're making me feel like I can't voice my opinion yet you can voice yours nonstop, and the second I voice that mine's just different, not that yours is wrong, it's just that mine is different. You've got a problem.
It also gets into like gray areas where like they say something that you find offensive, and you're like, nah, like please, like don't do that. Like that's something that hits home, or I'm uncomfortable with that like kind of language, and they're like, oh, you just toughen up. Like people are too like those turban-headed motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like no, man, like I'm sorry, I'm uncomfortable. Please don't use that. Like when your actions affect other people negatively, I'm like sorry. Like I think you need to take like responsibility for that.
So a big issue that I'm seeing right now with the societal norms is down here in the South is like the love-hate relationship. There really knows love, but for Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. They are all about this like keep the Muslims out. This and I'm like where's the like.
Oh, so Donald Trump is going the right way with that.
Where's the humanitarianism here? Like, and us looking at the betterment of humanity as a whole, and so much as this like. There's such a hardcore judgment happening, you know, and to say that like everybody's like a bad person is just whatever, you know. And if you were to have a different opinion, especially here in the South, it's like you're looked at as like, you know, so wrong, you know, just like, and then it will lead to arguments with individuals, which you're like, I'm not trying to argue, I'm just trying to say like.
I think a lot of these people just forget that the U.S. especially was like founded by people that were coming from other countries.
And here's the hypocritical side.
The U.S. of today is founded by it.
Here's the tired, give me your poor.
They see that, they acknowledge that, but it's like it doesn't exist for that point.
Yeah, once you're over here, it's like.
But
keep them out.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess
there's probably like a Muslim dude like that's a U.S. citizen that's like, yeah, I don't want the Muslims here either. Like, I swear, there's probably some out there.
There probably is. I mean, we live in a country of 330 million people or plus now. I'm sure it's very difficult to get like an agreement on any one thing. You know, other countries out in Europe, there's a lot less people. It's a lot easier to have agree in some beliefs. Yeah, consensus, exactly. But I mean. You guys, like, anybody else go through some things? Like, that was a good point, Alan, honestly, because there is a lot of society that pushes that. You've been together for a long time. When are you going to get married? It's like, really, it's just a piece of paper. It says nothing. The rings, right? I can't stand the idea, really, of the rings. I like it for only one purpose alone. It's just to say, as a symbol to other individuals out there, that I'm a married man, you know? And that's the only reason why I like it. And that's a personal reason. And you know, it doesn't.
The only reason.
It's not necessary. It's not a necessity by any means. But there is a lot of society that says, "Hey, we're gonna have the kids when I get married. Or when are you gonna get married and do all that thing?" And a lot of other beliefs and a lot of other perspectives that they want to force you upon. And if you don't, it's like you're now gonna get classified into this category of just I don't know weirdo.
I hate conforming to be happy.
You don't like when people are like, dude, cheer up. Just cheer up.
I hate that. Absolutely hate that. Why are you so sad? I'm not sad. I'm at fucking work. I hate this job. I'm not sad. I'm helping you out. I'm not gonna start talking to you and like being happy and being fake because I'm not happy. Get off my fucking back, because I get constantly like the manager come back and say, are you okay? I just had a customer say that you were just you weren't happy. I'm like, yeah, so was I supposed to be happy? Like, I mean, like they pressure you into it, like, because you see those people that pressure you into it. They're like, come on, like, oh, hey, how are you doing? You're like, oh, how are you? And you're like, I don't even fucking talk like that. You're like, you know what I mean? You're like, why the fuck did I even say that? I don't even talk like that.
I don't even talk like that.
Yeah, just because you're conformed into it. And I was
You're
like,
hold
no,
on,
like,
I would like to redo that.
like, oh, hey, how are you doing today?
Sorry. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sir,
what can I do for you?
Sir, would you like cash back? Not unless it's at a gym's account. Or something like that. Like my boss and everything. It's like, he's like, oh, what? Oh, you don't think that's funny?
Oh, that's
like,
an easy slapper.
Well, you say it every single time you come in.
Look, Steve, if you just want one flare to wear to work, that's fine, but you should really be thinking about wanting to wear more flare.
More flair.
Sure, man.
See,
I
just, being that I have 2 children right now, it's like, and I'm raising them here in an area where I said, I feel like I have a lot of opposing beliefs with them. It's like, I feel even nervous for my child. He's going through things even right now at the pre-K level that you're kind of like, whoa, like, I hope that things will, we want to raise that free thinker. We want to raise that child that's gonna, critically think through everything and is not just gonna accept things. It's blind faithfully.
Right.
They would know without doing any type of analyzing in their own way. I feel like we can do that, but I think that the society does play a large part on influencing individuals. And there's been times even I'm guilty of it. I go to make a sale and a person's like, hey, have you accepted Christ into your life? And I'm like, yeah. Because I'm making this sale today. And I'm
go to church every day.
Exactly. I don't believe in God. They'd be like, well, then get out of my house. And it's like...
Done the same thing with Rocco. Done the same thing.
It's just like it's... I get it. I've been there and I've done that, and I, like I said, I do it in my way to try to build that rapport still and to try to keep that sale going on the books, because I know that if I said, hey, no, that's not my beliefs, and not that it was even necessary to have why did Jesus come into this discussion of Medicare Advantage? It would lead to, conflict, and I don't want to have that, especially in that situation, trying to make that sale.
I had a lady do that to me too, man. She, I'm hearing feedback.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback too.
It's messing with me. Okay.
Is that you, Rocco? He's muted. Go ahead.
Okay. I just said I had a lady say that same thing to me. She was just like talking to me and everything, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm a Jehovah's Witness," and I was like, "Yeah, most of my family Jehovah's Witness," and she's like, immediately she said, "See, I knew there was something about you. And she like literally goes downstairs, goes all the way up, brings me back a pamphlet. Like, oh man, like so I thought that was pretty funny, but I was just like, I did not tell her.
I was given a Bible on occasion, no joke. I mean, just like it's very serious out here, and if you have any of those opposing beliefs, you would get nowhere with even a conversation, let alone like where my job entails.
That sucks.
I know it's very difficult. It becomes very difficult because it's a very closed-mindedness in a way. It's like you can't even listen to somebody say anything else if it doesn't agree with what you believe.
Yeah.
I have not run into that, Rocco, to be honest, since I moved to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Honestly,
like California and Vancouver, I really haven't run into that. At all.
Do you feel like you did in Texas though?
I run into that with my parents.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
I mean, it's like something I don't even bring up, but like they're very like Christian and everything, and like I go to church when I go home and stuff. But like to me, I'm kind of in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
The older I've gotten, the more I've realized I'm like more leaning towards an agnostic belief, and I still do it because it's like fun to go. You go with family. Like I'm familiar with the whole routine and everything. But at the same time, and like the messages are good. It's like the thing is like they could be totally applied without even having like Jesus or God in them. Like they're just normal life lessons,
And
so
that's
my
the thing,
dad
too, is-
always like kind of like talks about this, you know.
So think about this, right, and throw yourself into the situation that you have a child now,
Yeah.
and their grandparents are your child, right? And I have this conflict, with my parents, to be honest, and it's difficult because you're like, I want you guys to have this great, wonderful relationship, but at the same time,
You don't agree
your
with their style.
boundaries in a way with what it is we're trying to raise our child, how we're trying to raise our child, and don't have conflict with what we say that how we want to do the raising, because this is our opportunity to be those parents and to raise their children the way we want to raise them.
Right.
I worry about that too. It seems like a very dangerous line to walk because
it's
you don't want to destroy the relationship that you have with your parents,
and parents. You know what I mean? And you accept them, but yet you can almost feel like there's a lack of acceptance for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if I don't baptize this child, I'm gonna have some issues.
Yeah, exactly. Like like my parents were asking my sister, when are they gonna get their kids baptized? Like, when are you gonna sign them up for Sunday school? All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
To me, that sounds like something that I'm forced to do. I have to take time out of my Sunday to go, and I'm just like, that sounds terrible. That sounds terrible. I don't really.
You got
think...
football to watch, dude.
not. Yeah. I mean, it's just.
Well,
I don't know. I just don't have a lot of motivation behind it.
And,
I'm just like,
and so I've gotten to do things with Neil, like my stepfather on like a men's conference, right? It's like where they get all the guys together at the church and do our thing. And stuff. And I honestly don't care to be in church most of the time, just like whatever. But I'll go to be there to be supportive too as well. Like, okay, yeah, I'll go with you, but this will be a once in a year thing. It's not going to be. I'm not going to make it a regular. How I believe.
Right.
But just I'm at least showing you that I'm supportive of you too. And what it is you believe. But
let me ask you this: Are you all baptized?
Yes.
I was. Yeah.
I wasn't.
You weren't. Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So
you're going to hell.
Yeah, probably.
Go hell, you die.
But for a lot of other things, I'm going to tell you that right now. So basically, I think my parents did really well at it. My mom, grew up in the South, religious. My dad grew up Catholic in Chicago. He was beat by, nuns at his school and stuff like that. He was a typical, old school Catholic school kind of guy. So they brought me to church as a young child, and they said, "This is what church is. This is what they believe in. You decide. If you want to go, you can go. If you don't, you don't have to." So I decided, I went to like a few things here and there. It was kind of on and off, and I agree with Rocco. I am more agnostic. That's my own belief. I'm gonna probably, whenever I have kids, tell them, "Hey, this is what church. This is what they believe in. This is the Bible." Da 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 da. It's up to you. Give them the choice. Not say, "Hey, this is what I believe. This is what you need to believe, and you need to do this." Hey, if you want to get baptized when you're 14, let's get you baptized, man.
And that's
completely up to you.
That goes to my point though. Is like here in the South, it's an indoctrination. It is an absolute indoctrination, which can be worrisome for me because these children go to the same school as my kids, and even at such a young age, like this kid was ready to battle out for things like Spider-Man existing because his mom told him it was real, and my kid's like, yeah, it's not real. Like, it's a awesome superhero, but not real, but like that can be scary sometimes because when you take it to be something is not Super Spider-Man anymore, but you take it to be God, that's so a lot of people, that's a very, very like deep.
Yeah, they're called ISIS. It's like why they're killing people, literally. Because people say that their stuff doesn't exist.
Right, exactly.
Who's ISIS?
Who's ISIS?
It's this lady. She's like a bitch.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you guys' comments on it. If anybody has anything else, though.
And I apologize that I was out there for a while. So
it's okay. We're just gonna conform and we're
move on
to the next topic. Yeah. Move on to the next topic.